My husband was always irritable and in a bad mood because of work problems, and I wanted a baby so badly. When I was already 30, I decided that it was unreasonable to procrastinate further. It was time to make up our minds if we wanted to have a real family, not an empty partnership. That morning I got up early to make my husband breakfast, but as usual, he woke up in a bad mood, snapping at me and nervous. "How long is this going to go on, Michael? I couldn't take it anymore. I support you in everything. And you do not like it? We have become hostages to your business. It's time we remembered what all this sacrifice is for. Maybe the child will help us to strengthen the relationship, and everything will be like before." I asked hopefully. "What child?" My husband was furious. "You see, we are struggling from penny to penny. We need to get on our feet first, and then have a child." "When? At the end of the year or in 10 years? While we're on our feet, our youth is gone. Am I going to have a baby at 40? When my peers will already be grandmothers?" I was angry. Michael didn't say anything. He had nothing to say. He finished his breakfast and went to work. I sat back in my chair and thought about my life. I had a day off that day. I worked in shifts at the library. What am I going to do? I thought longingly, mentally returning to the conversation with my husband. How to live on. Children he does not want. I constantly snapped at me. Love as such has long been gone. Maybe we should divorce. At that moment the phone rang, and my mom's picture popped up on the screen. "Mommy, how glad I am to hear from you," I involuntarily exclaimed, acutely feeling the need for support of the closest person. "And I am glad, my daughter," Mom responded. "How are you? Wait for you tomorrow. Will you come?" she asked. The next day was my mom's birthday, and she was expecting Michael and me to visit. "Yeah, of course we'll come. Just tonight Michael is busy as usual," I sighed. "It's okay," Mom said. "We'll sit and have tea and cake at home like we used to." Remembering that my mother had to buy her favorite orizes, I went to the box where I had money for current expenses, but I was surprised to find that it was empty. Nor was there any money where we kept it for emergencies. I stood over the empty box with my mouth open for about 5 minutes, not understanding where everything had gone. Then, realizing that only Michael could have taken them, I nervously dialed his number. "Michael, what's the matter? Where's the vacation money gone?" I asked, struggling to keep my emotions in check. "I took it yesterday," my husband answered calmly. "I urgently needed all the resources to develop my business." Again for the development of your business. And about the fact that my mother's birthday is tomorrow, and it is necessary to at least buy her flowers and a gift. "You, of course, forgot," I shouted. "That's right, I should have left some money. It slipped my mind." Michael mumbled, and then hurried off. "I'm sorry. I can't talk right now." And he was out. I clenched my fists so hard that my fingernails dug into the skin of my palms. I couldn't sit at home and do the usual things. Grabbing my purse, I sprinted outside to get some fresh air and relieve the tension. Wandering aimlessly through the streets of our city, I stopped in front of a huge window of a flower store, where gorgeous bouquets for every taste and for every occasion. "There are my mother's favorite orizes," I thought wistfully, and tears came to my eyes. I stood at the showcase for another 5 minutes, thinking about my own thoughts, when the door of the store opened, and an imposing man of 40 years old came out, and in his hands, he was holding the very bouquet of orizes that had caused me such admiration. "Young lady," he suddenly addressed me, "this is for you." And he handed me the cherished flowers. I almost fainted from surprise, but I whispered, "In connection with what?" "I saw from the store how closely you look at this bouquet. Do not dare to come in, and decided to give it to you," explained the stranger. "But I cannot accept such an expensive gift from a stranger. I don't know you at all." I mumbled and wanted to leave, but he gently took me by the sleeve. "So, let's get acquainted. I'm Christopher. Why can't I just give flowers to a girl I like?" He smiled an open, wide smile. I stopped. The bouquet was really gorgeous. My mom will be stunned when she sees it, I thought. And then my adventurous spirit was suddenly awakened. I nodded. "Thank you, but I'll pay you back if you text me your phone number," I asked. Christopher gallantly pulled out his business card from his pocket. Here is my name and all phone numbers. Both cell and work, please. Thank you again." I smiled. "You helped me out a lot. These flowers are for my mom. Tomorrow is her birthday, and I'm out of money, and my paycheck is only in 2 days." I sighed. "Can I give you a ride? Just give me the address." Christopher said, "It's a big enough bouquet that you won't get far with it." I looked at the bouquet. I couldn't help but agree that it might get wrinkled on the bus, and I felt again that I was taking a gamble. but I didn't know what it was. Okay, if it's not too much trouble, I said cheerfully. We went to Christopher's car. It was a huge black Jeep, and the owner must be a big shot, I thought. I got in the seat next to the driver, and we were on our way. I'm so glad we've met, Christopher began gently. I liked you at first sight. I should warn you that I'm married. I cut off his advances without much enthusiasm. Yes, Christopher wondered. How could your husband allow such a beautiful woman not to have enough money for a bouquet for her mother? Well, I hesitated. Things happen, and he's having a hard time with his business. It does not justify it, sharply answered the new acquaintance. If a man has a beautiful wife, he is obliged to provide for her adequately. Then I could not find anything to say, but luckily for me, we had already arrived at my house, and I didn't have to answer. Thank you very much. I said goodbye sincerely to Christopher, and, satisfied, I hurried away. At home, I poured water into a vase and placed a gorgeous bouquet of delicate purple iris in it. Mommy will be happy tomorrow, I thought, and my mood immediately improved, and life no longer seemed so terrible and hopeless. Even anger at my husband disappeared somewhere, and I decided to arrange a romantic dinner for him. Well, he took the money from the stash, so it was very necessary, I thought. Okay, we can handle these difficulties. We've been through more than this. I was humming my favorite song carelessly as I worked on dinner. The front door slammed, and Michael came home from work, frowning and disgruntled, as he always was lately. Come to the table, sweetheart, and let's have dinner, I said softly. I'm not hungry, he said sharply and went into the living room. Here again I could not stand it. I ran to him and shouted, "That's it, isn't it? First you take every penny of money out of the house without telling me, and then you show up in a bad mood. I tried to turn a blind eye to the fact that you took the money. I never apologized. But no, that's not enough for you. I'm like a maid in a house, and you never say a kind word to me. Madison, give me a break. I have a big problem at work." He wrapped his arms around his head. What is it again? I asked unhappily, taking a deep breath to calm down. Actually, I was getting tired of his constant business problems. Maybe I'm really with the wrong man? A secret thought crept in. Maybe he's a loser in life, and I just did not notice it from the beginning in the heat of feelings. The client was a tough one, and we ruined his car, and now I'll have to pay such a penalty in court. I'll never make so much money in my life, Michael mumbled pitifully. Then he woke up and looked at me affectionately. And maybe we can move your mom here. We were just planning a baby, so she could help us. My eyes lit up at such words, but my husband continued, and we'll give her apartment to the bank as collateral. Very money is needed to satisfy the lawsuit, said my foolish husband. But don't touch my mom, I yelled. He wanted to have a child, of course. You want my mom's apartment. You'll be fine. You deal with your own problems. I'm sick of all this. I'm leaving you. Then get out. Michael yelled too. I thought we had a family. I thought we were in this together. But if not, go to your mommy. I can do without you. And he ran out of the room like a scalded man. So much for the romantic dinner, I stated wistfully, putting the meat away in the fridge. But nothing. I will not stay alone. There are men who fall for me, not that this loser. I had to call my mom and warn her that I was coming home. Mom, of course, immediately got upset, through questions about what happened. I'll come back and tell you everything, I promised, and passed out. I didn't have the strength to talk anymore. My mom had my old room ready for me when I arrived, and while I was unpacking, she came in quietly. Madison, what's wrong? You had a fight with Michael, didn't you? She asked quietly. I looked up, tears welling up in my eyes. Mom, you don't know how much I'm sick of him and his business. He's a loser. How can he not realize it? He should quit all this and get a normal job. But no, he took all the money out of the house. Then he offered to mortgage your apartment. You see, he's being sued. Well, my daughter, you're a family. Maybe it's better if I move in with you. I don't mind at all. Let him mortgage the apartment. I will not interfere, said my mother calmly. What are you guys doing behind my back? I couldn't take it anymore. He called you, persuaded you. How dare he? I couldn't hold back my emotions. I was shaking. Well, yes, he called this afternoon. And what's the big deal? He called for advice, Mom said. What a bastard. I mentally scolded my husband, but I didn't say anything out loud, because my mother loved my loser husband very much. Just Solinet did not dote on him, and there was nothing I could do about it. The next evening, when I returned from work, my mother set the table, and we sat down to dinner. She was very happy with the bouquet, as I expected, because these are her favorite iris. Thank you, My daughter, she whispered and furtively brushed away a tear. No, Mommy, they're just flowers. You are the best, beautiful, and kind. I hugged her tightly. And at that very moment, my phone rang. Michael came to his senses and remembered my mom's birthday. I thought gloatingly and answered the call. Hello, Madison, I heard an unfamiliar voice say. It's you, Christopher. I guessed right away. Yes, you know, I'd really like to see you. The new suitor went on the attack. That's very good. I was inspired. After all, now, I'm practically a free woman. Michael himself kicked me out of the house, so I have nothing to lose. And come to our place, I suggested, unexpectedly to myself. It's my mom's birthday, and we'll sit together, as they say, in a small circle. I'd like that, Christopher said. Give me the address. He didn't even ask about the husband. I noted to myself. 10 minutes later, he was at our door with a huge bunch of scarlet roses, a bottle of champagne, and a fluffy polar bear as tall as me. Mom even gasped when Christopher piled into our little hallway with his presents. Happy birthday, he proclaimed loudly, handing Mom roses and me a giant toy. I quickly shooed the squinty into my room, where it took up most of the available space. Yes, I thought such toys are definitely not for our small apartments, but aloud, of course, only thanked. The three of us sat down at the festive table. Christopher opened a bottle of expensive champagne and made a toast to my mother. We drank, but the atmosphere in the room was still tense. At the very moment my mom asked, "Where did you meet my daughter Christopher?" The doorbell rang again. Who could it be? Mom was surprised and went to open the door. She returned to the room already with Michael. Christopher jumped up when he saw my husband, and he turned pale. Is that you? He said. Do you two know each other? It was my turn to be surprised. Michael stood gloomy. He had no face on him, as they say. What is this guy doing here? My husband asked angrily and clenched his fists. What are you doing here? Christopher persisted. I'm Madison's husband. But why are you here? My husband said in a calmer voice. Are you the loser husband who can't provide for his wife? Christopher laughed. Your service couldn't even fix my car properly. They just ruined an expensive thing for me. Then my mind began to clear. Michael, is this the man who sued you? I asked. Is this the man? Michael exclaimed, a scoundrel who took advantage of his connections in the city to put me in a huge debt. He lunged at Christopher with his fists, and a scuffle ensued. Mom and I tried our best to break it up, but it was no use. So I grabbed a vase and threw the arises out of it, and splashed cold water directly at the fighting men. That's enough. Get out. Both of you. It's my mom's birthday, and you're having a disgusting fight. You shameless people. I shouted and pushed the troublemakers out the door. I even felt funny. After a cold shower, both of them were wet and seemed helpless. I locked the door and angrily poured myself another full glass of champagne. I drank it down, and only then looked at my mother. Poor Mom was sitting on the couch, pale and confused. I hurried to hug her. Mommy, I'm sorry that these two idiots ruined your holiday, I whispered. I shouldn't have let them in the first place. But who could have thought that everything would turn out this way? I even cried from resentment. Mom smiled. Yes, come on, daughter, nothing so terrible happened. And you are brave? How dashingly you poured water on them. I would not have thought of that. And we suddenly laughed merrily. Apparently, it was a reaction to stress. We laughed for a long time, and we couldn't calm down. You know, Mom said through her laughter, I didn't like that Christopher of yours. Pompous as a turkey and greedy too, even though he gave me a lot of presents. You see what he did to Michael? You should think, daughter, because Michael is not a bad man. Although, maybe, and not all of his business is not good, but he's honest. You know, Mom, I don't like Christopher, and I don't know why I asked him to join us. I guess I was just crazy. I said seriously, and I thought about it. At that moment, I suddenly realized that I love my husband. I still do, and I am not ready to part with him. My mother and I had some more tea and cake and went to bed. Both of us felt very tired after everything that had happened. I tossed and turned in bed for a long time, remembering and remembering. I remembered how we had met Michael at a college party at a mutual friend's house. How we had fallen in love with each other and couldn't live a day apart. How happy and relaxed we were together. Where did it all go? Or maybe it didn't go away, and just for the eternal domestic and business problems we forgot about our love. With this thought, I fell asleep. And in the morning, I made one very important decision. At 8 o'clock in the morning, I quietly walked into our apartment with Michael. He was in the kitchen, frying eggs and sausage for breakfast. He flinched in surprise when I quietly came up behind him and hugged him. He didn't push me away, just stared intently into my eyes and smiled back. "Why don't we start over, Michael?" I asked the question I'd been asking all night. "Because I love you." "I love you too, Madison. But do you really need a loser when you've got such great fans now?" "Yes, I do. I do." I laughed. "And you're not a loser at all. You'll succeed, and I'll help you with that." I winked at him, and the kiss that followed dispelled all doubts and fears, just like before. And now I'm absolutely sure everything will be fine, and Mom will soon be nursing her first grandchild.